Have you ever wanted to just control beams of light, to literally draw on buildings or paint shapes in the middle of a dark room? Well, today we are diving deep into the world of laser mapping, and specifically how the MAD laser extension for MadMapper makes this incredible art form, honestly, more accessible than ever before. Let's get right into it.
I mean, just look at this. These aren't just lines on a screen. That is pure light being sculpted in real time. This is really the power of laser art. You're turning digital ideas into these unbelievably stunning high-contrast visuals. So the big question is, how do we go from a totally blank screen to that?
So here's our game plan. We're going to break it all down into 4 key parts. First, we'll cover the absolute basics of what it means to work with lasers. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the practical setup. After that, we dive into the fun stuff, the creative process of turning your visuals into laser paths. And finally, we'll look at the pro tools you need to really polish your masterpiece.
All right, Section 1. You know, MAD laser gives you a completely new kind of paintbrush. But unlike a video projector, this one is, well, it's incredibly powerful and super concentrated. And that means we have to talk about something absolutely crucial right at the start.
Okay, before we get into all the cool, creative stuff, we really need to have a serious moment about safety. Lasers are not toys. They are extremely powerful tools, and you have to handle them with care and a deep respect for the safety of absolutely everyone involved.
These rules, they are non-negotiable. Always, and I mean always, know and comply with your local regulations. Never, ever, ever point laser beams towards an audience. Use a physical hardware safety switch. And inside the software, you need to define a safety area and be really mindful of your scanner's limit so you don't damage it. Seriously, safety first, always. All right, with that crucial safety talk out of the way, let's get into the setup. Before you can even think about drawing anything, you have to tell the software about your physical laser projector. This connection is what becomes your digital canvas.
You know, in MAD laser, the whole workflow really just boils down to 2 fundamental things. First, you add a laser output. That's the bridge to your hardware. Second, you add a laser surface, and that's where all your visual content is going to live. If you've ever done video mapping, it's the exact same logic, just with beams of light.
So what exactly is a laser output? Honestly, think of it as the brain of the whole operation. It takes all the cool shapes and lines you're making and translates them into a stream of coordinate data, we call them ILD points, that your laser projector can actually understand. Without this step, your art is just stuck inside the computer.
Now, inside that laser output, there are a few key settings. Let's walk through. Destination is pretty straightforward. It's where you pick your hardware like an Ether Dream or Pangolin. PPS, or points per second, is critical. You have to match this to what your scanner can handle, or you could literally damage it. Desired FPS is your target for smooth animation. Blank delay is a really clever one. It basically tells the laser to turn off for a millisecond when it jumps between shapes, so you get clean lines, not a weird connecting scribble. And we already mentioned the safety area, that digital boundary that protects your hardware.
Okay, let's get to the creative heart of MAD laser. Your hardware is all hooked up, so how do you take a video or an image and tell the laser how to actually draw it? This, my friends, is where vectorization comes in. MAD laser gives you 2 main ways to turn your pixels into paths. Find paths is absolutely perfect for content that you've already prepped, bright lines on a black background. It basically finds the skeleton of your art. On the other hand, Find Contours uses edge detection, which makes it awesome for turning pretty much any video or image into laser outlines, all in real time.
So if you're using Find Paths, these are your main controls. Threshold basically decides how bright a pixel needs to be for the software to trace it. Use Color is simple. It tells the laser to copy the colors from your source. And Thickness is super important. It helps the algorithm take a thick line in your video and intelligently reduce it to a single, efficient path for the laser to follow.
And this is what Find Contours looks like. It uses this really powerful algorithm to find edges. So here you can tweak settings like threshold and blur to fine-tune how it sees the edges in your video. This lets you pull crisp vector lines from just about any source you can throw at it.
Okay, so you know how to vectorize, but you need a place to do it. MAD laser gives you this awesome creative toolkit with 3 primary surfaces for your content: laser quads, laser lines, and laser text. The laser quad is your go-to, your workhorse.
You can just drop any visual media onto it, a video file, a live camera feed, some generative material, and then use those vectorization tools to turn it into light. From there, you can warp it, mesh it, and map it, just like you would with a normal video surface.
Now, laser lines. This gives you a much more hands-on approach. This is for when you want to draw your own vector shapes from scratch, or maybe import a precise logo as an SVG file, or even animate the individual points of a path. It really gives you surgical control over every single line.
And then there's laser text, which is optimized specifically for this medium. See, standard fonts are filled-in shapes, and that's actually really inefficient for a laser to draw. It has to scribble back and forth like crazy. So laser text uses special single-line fonts, sometimes called stick fonts, to create this incredibly sharp, clean text that's just perfect for how a laser scanner works.
Okay, your content is drawing, things are looking good. But now it's time for the refinement. This final section is all about the pro tools that take your work from being just a cool effect to a truly polished piece of art.
Let's look at some of these key finishing tools. Angle optimization is fantastic. Because the scanner has physical inertia, sometimes sharp corners can look a little rounded. This tool cleverly adds extra points right at the corners to keep them crisp. Path filtering is great for cleaning up visual noise by just getting rid of lines that are maybe too short or too long. Masks are for both safety and creativity. We'll touch on those more in a sec. And time shift is a total lifesaver for fixing weird color alignment issues that can sometimes happen because of hardware delays.
So let's look closer at masks. This is a perfect example of a tool that's got a dual purpose. On the safety side, you can use a mask to create a hard blackout zone, to protect a camera lens or make sure no light ever hits an audience area. But you can also use it artistically, to precisely crop your projection so it fits perfectly onto a weirdly shaped building or object. Super useful. But for those of you who really want to push the boundaries, there is one more level. As this says, laser materials let you output true vector graphics directly from code, and it all happens live, in real time. And this is what that looks like. You can start with a whole library of awesome pre-made generative effects, everything from audio-reactive waveforms to complex geometric patterns. But for the ultimate control, you can actually open up the code editor and write your own shaders to invent completely new visual systems right from scratch.
So, there you have it. We've seen how MadLaser gives you this complete, powerful toolkit for an absolutely incredible medium. It puts a paintbrush made of pure light right in your hands. So the only real question left is, what are you going to create?